All right, my name is Don Parrott. I'm with XBiz, and we are here at the Sex and Censorship seminar on reversing the trend. We have four esteemed panelists that know all about sex and censorship and the collision course that is going on in the UK. Let me have everyone introduce themselves. Jerry, why don't you go ahead.
I'm Jerry Barnett. I founded the Sex and Censorship campaign about a year or so ago. Before that, I've been around the online adult industry for almost 2 decades, since I was about 12, as far as I can remember. And I'm helping organise this show as well.
I'm Jim McKillock. I work for the Open Rights Group. We campaign for people's human rights online and with digital technologies. We call that digital rights.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I am Itziru Rutia, and I am an adult producer, and I was reported to AdVote in 2013. My femdom, female supremacy fetish studio, was reported to AdVote, and I won my appeal.
I am Ben Yates. I'm an adult producer in the UK, so I shoot straight, boy, girl, and solo content.
All right, let's start. Jim, I want to talk about what's going on in filtering in the UK. What's the status right now?
So you'll all be aware of the campaign in the UK to put sort of censorship, nannyware, call it what you like, on fixed broadband ISPs in the UK. You'll also, as you heard in the last panel, this has been around on the mobile networks for a very long time. The difference has been with fixed broadband, a sort of discussion about whether this is all switched on by default or whether it is in some way user-enabled. And it's turned out in the end they've had to have it user-enabled, which is a good thing. You know, the users have to choose. That said, the kind of push, it's very much like, well, you know, if you don't switch this on, you're being irresponsible. And in particular, if there are children in the house, you're a bad parent. There's that kind of overtone going on, and the click-through screens tend towards pushing people towards switching these filters on. Despite that, nobody is much, which is interesting. People don't like filtering, and when they're presented with the choice of switching parental filters on, most of them don't, and even parents are quite reluctant to switch them on, because most people's experience of filters, I suspect, is that they break lots of things. Lots of the internet stops working. So why would you want to pay lots of money for a product which you then break at setup? You know, so that's the kind of general filtering. But then there's a sort of second level of this, which is what is the government trying to just ban, if you like? And obviously this started with something pretty much impossible to object to, child abuse images, but it now extends to a great deal of copyright infringing sites, such as Pirate Bay and so on. Again, a bit difficult to kind of object to it in principle, but it starts having more more collateral damage, if you like. Not all of things like Pirate Bay are sharing illicit files. Some of it is self-justification, but it is speech. Things like their blog, it's difficult to see why that's being blocked. But as it goes on, you get more and more mistakes, there are more and more problems, and of course more and more people want different kinds of things being blocked. So the next thing we're seeing right now, as a court case just been heard to ban sites that are infringing trademarks. This starts widening the thing, and there's been constant pressure, I think far more dangerously actually, for extremist websites to be banned in the UK, and with those they don't even want to tell us which sites are being banned, which starts getting very kind of Orwellian. But you know, we'll come back to the problems with that later, but I'll just try and fill you in a little bit about our response first. Our response has been to try to educate people into what filters are, what the problems are, and the effects on everybody running whatever kind of websites they might be running. And we have 2 projects for that. One is blocked.org.uk, and the idea with this is you go to blocked.org.uk, any website you like, you can check whether it's being blocked on any mobile or fixed line ISP in the UK under their child filtering. So if you've got a site which, is kind of not really adult in terms of the sort of things that maybe ought to be filtered for children, but maybe has adult themes, maybe it's kind of erotic rather than pornographic, those kinds of things, or if you're trying to educate people about sex as opposed to being pornographic, these sorts of things are things that are right on the borderline, and they're going to get blocked for some by some filters and not by others. But children have a right, as young adults particularly, have a right to a lot of that material, and they just simply shouldn't be blocked. But of course, completely random things get blocked as well. I'll come on to that in a second. So I'll tell you about it now. In fact, about 1 in 1,000 errors are made. Or 1 in 1,000 sites are miscategorized, we find. But given that there are 8 or 10 ways of categorizing these sites commercially, used by all the different providers, the result is that something more like maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 150 sites gets blocked, which is quite a high rate. They may be only blocked on one provider, but that's pretty annoying if you're them. And at the moment, until our tool block.org.uk was produced, there was no way to find out. So as a website owner, you could be blocked somewhere. There was absolutely no way of knowing that you were blocked. So that's what block.org.uk does, and we found that something like a fifth of sites in the UK are blocked somewhere by some adult filter. A lot of those are blogs, blocked by BT and their stricter settings. Why are blogs being blocked by BT? Well, because they have comments, they might have predators in the comments, so blogs must be blocked. That's the kind of rationale for blocking blogs. I mean, it's the most absurd kind of argument you can really think of, because you can add that you won't get the Telegraph's blogs section blocked, nor comment is free. It's just if you're a common everyday blogger. And of course those have people discussing issues around sexual minorities, about problems of all kinds of social problems which are again borderline to adult content, really important for young people, but are being blocked, potentially blocked by BT and so on, for pretty dubious reasons. This is all quite complicated to get across to a general audience, and there's always going to be a reaction when you say yes, but this is blocked and that's blocked. Well, they can sort it out. They'll sort it out. Filters will get better. And of course, this is nonsense. When you're matching by keywords, you just cannot get these things to work properly. People need to know that they're essentially a bit of a red herring. They need to know that they are not going to truly police what children do or see online, that they are essentially a very weak defense for people who think that they are important in their children's upbringing. People need to know all this. They need to know that if a child wants to find pornography, frankly they will, and that is something the parents have to then deal with. They have to think about how they educate their children and make them think about the content online rather than simply relying on things like filters to do their parental duties for them. Technology is not a parent. So what might be helpful is if I just show you the Department of Dirty video which we produced, which was basically, we did this to try to help people understand exactly what filtering means in practice.
Department of Dirty, how can I help?
Thank God, finally, a real human being.
What is the dirty nature of your inquiry today?
Well, I'm trying to download a recipe for spotted dick. I'm getting the message, this web page has been blocked because it may contain
inappropriate material. If you really want to access this page, call blah, 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 blah. I just need to ask you a couple of questions.
Oh, yes, of course. My address is...
Oh, no, we've already got your address. How often do you like to access dirty material? Often, very often, or all the time?
Excuse me?
How dirty would you say your browsing habits are on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being pretty, well, you know what to mean.
I just want to use the internet.
Yeah, well, this isn't the internet, is it, sir? This is the dirty internet.
I really need this recipe.
Okay, all right. You can have your recipe. All you need to say is, I really want to use the dirty internet.
I will not.
Okay. Now, about these spots on your member, sir, could you describe them to me? I might need to transfer you to the Department of Health. Department of Dirty, how can I help?
That's pretty good. How many here have gone to this website to check out your website? XBiz.com is blocked, and so is XBiz Newswire, which is basically a plain text site. We're in the United States, based in Los Angeles, and it's really surprising to find out.
Yeah, and you've got to question why that is. I mean, XBiz is a commercial site. It's the speech there is going to be about the industry. It's not going to be pornography as such. And so, even from the point of view of the justifications that are used for filters, it makes no sense. But, that is writ large across a whole range of problems.
Well, you don't have the First Amendment in the UK.
No.
All right. Itzy's got an interesting story. She's the operator of Urban Chick Supremacy Cell, and she was found in breach of Rule 1 and Rule 11 for not registering her site with @VOD, and also for not having the correct CAC system. And her case was challenged at Ofcom, the parent regulator of the UK. Itzy, tell us your story.
Yes, I was reported to @VOD, the Authority for Television on Demand, in June 2013, being accused of, all that, of running a website. In this case, it's a very niche femdom website, female supremacy, kind of fetish, BDSM. It was accused of obscenity, of not putting enough filters is not the word, but not putting enough measures to prevent children from accessing the adult content which is behind the paywall. My website, what you said earlier, not having the correct card system, there isn't such a thing. My website, like all adult websites everywhere, has a splash page that says if you are under the age of consent, or you are under 18 or 21, depending on your territory where you live, go elsewhere. If not, you can come in, as like every single adult website that we know of. It had a splash page, which is, as we know, is industry standard. What @VOD ARC is that if people want to become a member, it's a membership website. If people want to become a member, they can use a debit card. Debit cards are issued to people under 18, I think it's 16 or 17-year-olds, meaning that in theory, minors who own a debit card could access it. So that was one of the reports. The other one was, let's say the main one is that I was reported for not registering with the television on demand service, because I am a television on demand according to @VOD, comparable to ITV Player or BBC iPlayer, which I thought it was ridiculous. When I read the letter, I thought it was an hoax, because I just couldn't understand how could anybody be comparing an adult website, especially a small adult website and quite niche, to be in, they say this is literally in direct competition with television, like again BBC, iPlayer or Sky. And that's when I got in touch with solicitors, because at first I didn't understand what was going on. All these accusations, like, the cards issue, or the fact that they found that some of my videos were obscene and they were breaching the OPA, the Obscene Publications Act, was just a way of scaring people, of scaring me off. They were just subtle threats, saying, you're doing dirty and what you do is illegal. And so basically they wanted money, but I think most important, more than money, because when you register with @VOD, you have to pay an annual percentage of your overall annual earnings. I think that more like the money, I suspected that they were just trying to destroy independent adult industry in UK, because the year when I was reporting, they reported another 89 adult studios. Of them, 84 were femdom, female supremacy, or BDSM. Most of them were femdom. which I find very suspicious. But that's me being suspicious. I don't know what he could prove.
How long did the process take? First of notification and having to address AdVod with the charges.
It took 1 year until they got. They don't give up. You know, they don't give up, no matter how much you try to explain to them with solicitors why what they're doing is basically illegal and breaching a lot of legislation. They still think that, you know, you're in the wrong. They think they are going to scare you and you're going to run away. So in the end, they said, you know, the last resort was to appeal to Ofcom. So we did. And Ofcom ruled in my favor. They ruled that, yeah, I wasn't breaching any rules or any legislation, that there was nothing illegal in my website. So AdVod's, being reported to AdVod was just, obviously, it was wrong. I want to say, because that's something that not many people know, that AdVod is not a government organization, it's a private organization. It's just Ofcom has outsourced that this regulation of online video and online television to them. And as I said, the remit is television on demand. That's why, for some reason, they want to catch adult studios or adult websites, because there are so many of them, adult video websites, and brand them as television on demand like Netflix, and to get some annual revenue from them.
Yeah, to me, that's very surprising. In the United States, that would not fly. Having a private company being accountable to the government over something like this. And
also, all the revenue, AdVod's revenue, comes from these studios who agree with them and decide to pay. That's all the money. That's where the money comes from.
Did I hear that right? Did you say AdVod's were after a percentage of your annual income?
Yes, the annual income from my website. Yes. Why do you say that?
Well, it's
That's absolutely correct. It's a banded fee tariff based on your revenue. It's a banded fee tariff based on your revenue.
Sliding scale.
But they're nothing to do with the government.
Sorry?
They're nothing to do with the government.
No, as I said, it's a private organization.
They're just moaning.
The service or whatever the job is outsourced by Ofcom to them.
that's why it has to go through Ofcom for appeals process. Yes, Jim.
I mean, they are private, but I mean, I'm presuming, I'm not a lawyer, but I would presume they are publicly accountable. They're acting as if they're a public organisation, and that probably puts them in the scope of things like freedom of information requests.
Yes.
I think Ben's questioned them on that. You asked them about freedom of information.
Yeah, they're actually exempt from freedom of information requests. However, they do have a policy of supplying the information as kind of a goodwill gesture. So I submitted a freedom of information request to them, and Pete Johnson's secretary did get in touch with me and said usually we wouldn't be covered by the scope of the FOI, but in this case we will provide the information.
Interesting. The other thing is, again, human rights impact. I mean, if they're censoring or stopping stuff on behalf of Ofcom, which is the government, then that has a human rights impact if they expect everyone to abide by their decisions. So again, I wonder if there's some challenge that can be made there.
And I also want to thank you. I want to apologize, correct myself, you're right, it's not a percentage. The last time I spoke to them about money was very, very early on in my process. After that, it was all about the charges and the obscenity. You are right, they have several different tiers. What I know, however, is other producers who have other forms of income, like clubs or doing actual, other adult-related businesses going on. They wanted the overall income, everything they earn from everything. They also own a coffee shop that would go in and to get, just to make the tier go up. I have read those emails. They haven't done it, haven't asked that from me, but I know others who they wanted to look at the overall annual income for all the businesses.
Now you're approved, are you actually paying them a sliding scale?
No. What I thought back was the labeling me a television on demand service. I'm not. So that for me, that was the start of it. That's what I opposed. I am not a television on demand, therefore I am not under AdVod's remit. But they send me an email saying that the legislation and regulation changes, obviously they're working on it, they'll be back.
Go ahead.
What legal powers do Apple actually have?
We wouldn't say any. I think Ofcom is the chief regulator of communication.
This is
So it's not.
APVOD can't. Yeah, the APVOD can't take any action. They have to recommend. Well, no, because they can then pass you up to Ofcom, and then you are in the tangles in the hands of regulators. But this is kind of why the new law, which was discussed yesterday about putting this stuff into law. At the moment, as Don said, there are a lot of questions about the legality of all of this. They can close all of that by introducing a law that puts this stuff in law. But at the moment, APVOD's regulations are made up by APVOD. They don't have any standing in law, except that Ofcom can fine you for breaking them.
Exactly, they're just regulations. There's not.
In ITZY's case, like others.
Yes. Yes, well, from the moment they send you emails, they're very, very threatening. First of all, they were accusing me of obscenity under the OPA, of peddling dirt to children. You know, those accusations are very serious.
That would be nice. That would take a lot of money.
Yeah. A little background on this. Her site was found in breach of Rule 1, which is just not registering the site because it's a video-on-demand site, which was found that wasn't so. And then Rule 11 for not having a CAC system, which is basically a credit card to go onto the site.
I know, by the way, websites who have agreed to go down the credit card only, to accept only credit cards, and I haven't seen anything, but I've spoken to them because there are people I know personally, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, people I work with, and they say that the sales went down by an 80 to 90%, which is...
Yeah, there are many challenges possible at the moment, but they would take someone with a case and with cash to chase them up. In the meantime, it is a loophole. They're operating within a loophole. If new law comes in, then that loophole will be removed.
You know, adult studios, as far as I've seen, are very scared. They close shop, or they decide to pay. They pay, and I know the exact details, but I've heard that the APVOD doesn't leave you alone. Of course, once you pay, once you agree, yes, I am a television on-demand service offering television programs. What the fuck? You are in the hands. You know, they can start demanding anything they want. I don't like that clip. I don't like you using that subject or tying people up in this way or this kind of sex that I object to. So, you know, once you're in the hands, you're in the hands. And just paying is not enough.
That seems like a torture for a whole year, having to wonder what would happen to your case. I know you went to Backlash and hired Miles Jackman to...
Yeah, he was one of my solicitors because I also happened to volunteer for Backlash, an organization that defends freedom of sexual expression. And they targeted the wrong person in my case. I just thought there is something wrong with this. I just had experience with activism, so that was lucky for me, and because it was very scary. I can imagine how scary it must have been for many people, and unlucky for APVOD in this case in particular.
When I receive press releases from Pete Johnson, there's always one paragraph about what happened to Playboy, fined £100,000, and I'm sure that would scare the dickens out of people.
Yeah, but you know, organizations like, firms like Playboy, they can pay $100,000 and carry on. Smaller studios cannot do that.
Yeah,
even if it's £10,000 a year, you know, it's big studios. Again, I was telling you earlier, it's like corporate, let's call it shops, as opposed to individual shops in the high street. You know, the big names. You know, it's a bit like Primark. The Primark of porn will survive. And independent, more niche producers, they will, you know, they're trying to close those down.
Yeah, in the case of Playboy, they left the UK. They built a studio near Heathrow Airport, and it was probably 1 year old, and they were fined, and they left, and they never came back. So Manwin's not around, or MindGeek actually now. We have Jerry Barnett going to present a PowerPoint.
Thanks. What I'm going to do is, this is on behalf of Sex and Censorship. I've been speaking to the media a lot and doing a lot of university debates and appearances and so on. And so this is, I've taken a couple of extracts from a presentation that often goes for an hour or so. So I just wanted to kind of give a flavour for kind of a much bigger picture where I think we're at today, and then try and answer the question of this panel, which is, was it reversing the trend? I found this is a great cartoon. This is from a US publication in 2000, so this is before 9/11, and as you can see, we have to remember, aside, any little micro cases of, censorship for this reason or that reason, there's a bigger picture, and that is censorship gives power, or to turn it the other way, the internet has destroyed a lot of vested state power by simply freeing up information. So back here in 2000, you can see the state has reasons to want to control all sorts of reasons, thousands of reasons for wanting to control free speech. And, typically there are two types of wrapping. You can say this is about terrorism, or this is about protecting children. And we hear all of these pretty much every week now. And as I say, this was before 9/11, so that we have to block this information because it may be of use to extremists or whatever. This story goes way back before this war on terror. I tried to position where we are as a society, and so, this is what's happened since the war in the UK. I've got three trends here. First of all, state attitudes. From the war till about 1960s, the state was increasingly willing to give up control and to reduce censorship controls, and they reformed the Obscene Publications Act. There was very little in the way of kind of hard state power over information. From the 1970s, that abruptly changed direction, and since the 1970s, we've had increasing new laws to control access to control expression, and most recently, and that's accelerating. That's an accelerating trend. So most recently, we've had all sorts of things which we mostly know about. Then there's a kind of, what are public attitudes like? In general, public attitudes have become more liberal, but of course that rises and falls with time. So you could say the 60s was a particularly liberal era, the 80s was a particularly illiberal era, the 90s was more liberal. We're back in a more conservative era. So the public kind of goes for or against free expression, and at the moment I think the public is going very much against free expression. And the third line is how does this affect access to content? Since the 1950s, we've had increasing numbers of TV channels, then we've had the arrival of video, the arrival of DVD, the arrival of the internet. So technology has increased access to content continuously. Just in the last few years, we're starting to see that trend reversed. So things like with blocking sites, as Jim's just mentioned, with all sorts of new content possession laws. So we're starting to see, I think, the reversal of a trend which, we've had increasing access to information ever since World War II. In fact, since the printing press maybe. That is now turning around, I think. And I just want to kind of, it's not about AdVod or, individual laws. There are many different ways in which information can be controlled, and I'd group them into three. In the old days, they would attack the supplier. So in the old days, DVD, video distributors were subject to the Obscene Publications Act, and that was pretty much the only serious censorship law we had. The problem is that with the arrival of international shipping and then the internet, that doesn't really work anymore. Suppliers can be outside UK jurisdiction. And so kind of second round is attacking the consumer. And this is done using possession laws. And attacks on the consumer are very ineffective. The fact that some poor guy gets done because he's got an animal sex, an animal porn, clip on his PC makes no difference to anyone's access to information. It's just kind of harassment, and it's just a general kind of threat. But it doesn't do very much. But it's very draconian because, as we know that, for example, perfectly legal porn that you could buy in the US or Europe could land you 3 years in prison if it's found on your PC or if you have a DVD of it. So we have the possession laws. It's only been illegal to possess content since the 90s when, and again, as Jim said, this started off with child abuse imagery, but it's now gone way beyond child abuse imagery, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So the extreme porn laws in 2008 and now this year, the rape porn law, I'm not quite sure where we're at. I was hoping
I want to say not just that, it's also the extreme porn legislation also criminalizes the possession of images of sexual activities that are perfectly legal to perform, like, for example, fisting.
It's a very Orwellian set of laws. So there's stuff you can do at home in your own bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you photograph it, you could go to prison for 3 years.
For having a photograph of it, yeah.
And branded a sex offender, which used to mean you were a child abuser, and now it could mean pretty much anything. One of the dangerous things about these laws is that they start to group together horrible things, rape and child abuse, with perfectly legal and consensual things, and this is really pernicious. The big prize is really attacking the internet. You can't attack the supplier. Attacking the consumer doesn't make much difference. Introducing internet censorship is the way to control information. I'm going to kind of skip through a few of these things Jim's covered. Filtering, just to look at possession laws slightly more. We had the Simon Walsh case, which was another Miles Chapman case. A man was prosecuted for having an image of fisting, gay fisting, anal fisting, that he had participated in. So he had, he could have gone to prison. He had his career ruined, his life ruined. He could have gone to prison for photographing consenting adult sex that he took part in. And this wasn't what we were told the extreme porn laws were about. Most recently, we've had some quite disturbing cases with WhatsApp. If you receive an image or a video to your phone or to your email account, you are in possession of that image. It doesn't matter if you didn't ask for it, it doesn't matter if you didn't look at it, you are in possession of it. So if someone sends you, say, some animal porn or whatever, you are now subject to 3 years in prison. These laws are very dangerous. And in the case of WhatsApp, some guys were sent an animal porn video by WhatsApp. They deleted it. They didn't ask for it, they deleted it, but it turned out it was saved to their camera roll, or whatever it's called, on their iPhone. So they were still technically in possession of it, and they ended up pleading guilty and paying a fine.
And also, can I add, you can be charged under the OPA, the Obscene Publications Act, where you send a WhatsApp message shared by two people, a text message. Even in the case of Simon Walsh, there were images in a private email inbox that it was between him and whoever was exchanging them. That counts as a publication.
I think we're kind of getting towards the era. It's worth reading 1984 if you haven't read it. We're getting into the era of thought crime. The idea that someone might send you something that you might look at can get you sent to prison. And then, very disturbingly again recently, the child abuse imagery is banned, and everyone agrees that it needs to be banned and it needs to be controlled. But the laws introduced to control child abuse imagery are being abused in all sorts of ways. And most recently, two teenagers, a girl photographed herself naked. I think she was 15 or 16. Photographed herself naked, sent a picture of herself to her boyfriend, and they're now both sex offenders because she sent a child porn image. And so the concept of what constitutes child porn has been stretched. And I think, these laws, the only real effect of them is to create an environment in which sex is now nasty and must be brushed back under the carpet again. Just another trend that I noted quite pessimistically, there's a general mood in this country against free expression, and we've seen all sorts of panic after panic in the media. So there's a feeling now that there's no right to cause offense. So we've seen what I call progressive intolerance. In the US, they have the religious right to deal with. We don't really have the religious right. Instead, we have the intolerant left, which basically plays the same role as the religious right. The idea that you can't tell jokes, jokes on Twitter may be prosecuted using racist words or sexist words, or things that may be construed to be racist or sexist could be prosecuted. So there's a general, again, a climate of fear that if you tweet the wrong thing, the police are going to turn up at your door. And we saw the kind of whole Twitter troll thing that ran through last year, where a bunch of total wankers who should have been ignored were instead dragged into court for being total wankers on the internet. And being a total wanker has never been a crime, and certainly, Americans are allowed to be total wankers, and they exercise that right, quite with pride. But it's. But I say that in a complimentary way.
Yes, there you go.
I would like the UK accepts that people have a right to cause offence. And most worryingly, and recently, an art exhibition in London last week was closed down because it was deemed racist by a load of people who had never seen it, but because they protested and there were threats against the gallery, it was closed down. And we're now closing down art exhibitions that no one's seen because someone has decided that it offends them. I think it's very dangerous. I'm very much anti-racism, but the fact that a mob can close down an art exhibition is nothing to do with racism, it's to do with intolerance. So where we're going towards is internet blocking, proper internet censorship, and we're going towards, at the moment we get stuff blocked on a case-by-case basis, piracy sites and this kind of thing. We're going towards an official whitelist and an official blacklist where sites are blocked by the state because they're deemed unacceptable. And that will affect adult content, but it will affect all sorts of things. And Jim mentioned extremist content, and you think, I don't like extremists, but extremist content could mean anything, and it means anything that the state doesn't approve of. And as Jim said, we don't get to find out what extremist content actually is. I ran the Sex and Censorship campaign. I want to take the campaign forward, and really the thrust of this campaign is to oppose censorship in the media, to defend sexual expression in the media, and to really try and start to change the tide, to really kind of introduce an American-style idea that free expression needs protecting even if people don't like it.
Okay, we're almost out of time here, but questions? Way in the back? You.
Great.
Perfect.
Two things. First of all, Jerry, you really can't be a wanker on the internet in America anymore if it's perceived as bullying or otherwise threatening. There's a lot to be said for American issues on that front as well. The main question that I had is, I know that AppFod were going after some other cash cows years ago. I seem to remember a list circulating where they had listed the people that were going to be sending some letters to and such. Among them were several major musical acts who had YouTube partnership channels. And I was wondering if anything ever actually came of that, and if there is a pursuit also towards the mainstream video providers on the web.
Yes, I talk about the adult industry because it's what I know, and it's what I've been looking at, and because I defend freedom of sexual expression. But the year on the 2013, when I decided to fight AdVod back, the only other company that were fighting them back, not along me, but as well as me, was Sainsbury's. The supermarket, yes, they've also done, Tesco has, Blinkbox as well, having reported. So everything that it's, I don't know specific names, but also they've gone after YouTube channels. Again, Tesco, Blinkbox, Netflix, Sainsbury's, and it's not just the adult industry, although they seem to be especially keen on the adult industry, but they go for everybody.
Is it safe to say that there are several large mainstream companies out there that are currently paying AppFod the kind of blood money?
Yes, there are, yeah, yes. And again, because, it would make more sense that they were much stronger, or someone like Sainsbury, who probably owes them, as you say, more blood money than someone like me, but they seem to be very keen on the very small companies or businesses like me. Sorry, can you speak up?
So I was just saying that they probably do that because they want to provoke fear and make an example out of you to other producers and stuff, because the word gets around and everyone starts going into hiding.
And also because, they, I said the year when they, along with me, the other studios that they reported, adult studios, were 89. So, if 89 studios cough up without any complaint, it is money. It's a bit like the mafia, Nice little shop you have here. Imagine something happened to you. It's very easy to go for the small business because we are unprotected. Yeah. So 89 studios is obviously a bit of a cash cow. Yeah.
In the early days, you said they asked for money.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that if you'd have bowed down with PayPal at that time, they would have just left you alone?
No. Because, as I said, I have to investigate more, but I have heard that, again, once you pay, they still don't leave you alone. They tighten up the regulations, so they tighten up, as I said, once you pay, you are the bitch. You are advert bitch. And you'll have to dance to the tune, and they change it all the time. That's what I have heard. Just pay doesn't... Why should I? They have been very threatening, very bullying, very unfair. They have accused me of obscenity, of deliberately selling adult stuff to children, and also assuming that I'm stupid.
I think mafia was quite where to use.
It's how they operate. I can't, because I don't have them here. They're in the public domain now. Their emails back and forth are in the public domain now. They are bullies in a kind of racketeering kind of way. Yeah, they're racketeers. I thought it was an hoax. I thought just trying somebody blackmailing me, or because it read so, like the mafia. Yeah. We leave you alone. Yes.
Marco, go ahead. You've been waiting patiently.
Jerry, these laws you mentioned in your presentation, they're already in place in the UK?
The possession laws?
Yeah.
Yeah, the extreme porn law came in 2008, and that covers animal porn, necrophilia, neither of which are of so much concern, but then things like acts that might be harmful in some way, and that covers pretty much all BDSM and even play, even role play and that kind of thing. So things like strangulation, things like fisting.
How many trials have been held since that?
Last figure I saw, there have been a couple of thousand trials. And most people just plead guilty because you suddenly find that you've broken the law and you might go to prison and be put on the sex offenders register. So people plead guilty for a fine or something. But most of that's for animal porn. But there have been some BDSM cases as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of emails from for backlash asking for help, and a very large percentage is about animal porn, or people having got animal porn, and also child porn. We don't defend those cases.
This law was introduced in response to a woman being strangled, being murdered. A law introduced in response, supposedly to stop more women being strangled, is being used to lock up blokes for having animal porn on their mobile phones.
Basically, what I'm thinking about, if the guys has implemented this law already, use this law against them, just send them footage, and then call the son or the Daily Mail and say, hey, those guys are receiving film, and then we get them with their own law.
It could be abused. You could very easily criminalize someone you don't like by emailing them a video. In theory, I'm not sure that's ever happened. What happens in practice? The police don't actually go out looking for these cases.
Yeah,
they arrest someone for something else, often say for fraud. they search their phone looking for evidence. They don't find any evidence of fraud, but they find that they've got a BDSM clip on their phone, and they get done for extreme porn instead.
So how do you fight against this? What are your solutions?
In terms of, I mean, do you want to answer that?
I've got a couple of things that I would suggest. I mean, we don't have the First Amendment, but we do have human rights law. We have a free expression right. That's in UK law and under the European Convention. Those are the people who should draw these lines ultimately, because our government and politicians often, they won't get this right. They will not draw the line in the right place. And I think that you do need a public campaign as well. You can't just win on the basis of legal action. You need to show that, some of the examples you've given are just outrageous. I mean, young people being criminalised for things that they've done while underage as child sex offenders, that is outrageous. So those things need to be explained to the public, and the pressure needs to be put on the politicians to do this better and not to pass such appalling laws.
Yeah, and organizations like Jerry's, Sex and Censorship, is a good place to start.
And gyms.
And to support. Yes, and gyms.
But why don't you use the technology and educate the people and the businesses to use technology that already allows you to have private conversations, to have private...
There's an interesting discussion about kind of using darknet technology and encryption technology.
That's what I say about educating the people, the users, and the businesses. Darknet is not good to use.
In the UK, that really won't work, because if you have, say you had encrypted material, password protected stuff that you kept on your phone, even if you were the only person who could access it, to deny the police access to that material is a criminal offence.
No, my point was that you can use the technology for fighting this.
I think the rise of encryption technologies is a response to state snooping, but it's not the best response. What we need is legal protection of free expression and privacy.
Right.
It's a workaround,
What about the policy? You mentioned policy. We've got a general election going on.
Yeah.
What's your feelings on the major political parties? One, obviously we've got the Conservatives right now.
I wanted to close on that point actually, because it was mentioned yesterday that Labour and Tory are pretty much singing from exactly the same hymn sheet. So the two big parties are united in the need for censorship of various forms. The good news is that Labour and Tory share of the vote is falling and falling and falling combined. And so ultimately this is a political fight, and it's a long-term fight. But the Lib Dems, kind of pretty widely hated these days, have much better attitudes to free expression. The Green Party, the UK Pirate Party, there's a sex worker candidate standing in Clacton in a by-election. But it's about changing the culture. And I think I want to introduce one idea to the culture which they have in America that we don't have here. That free expression is a right, even if it's nasty expression, it needs protecting.
We've run out of time. We've got the traffic session coming up. I invite all of you to speak with them personally up front. Thank you for coming to this event.